received a call from HR. They've asked for your help to create this tabular format. Let me show you the export that they have to work with. Here's the raw data. The first 3 columns identify the employee, the company, and the work date. That's followed by overtime columns, split into 2, hours and cost for multiple rates. You might recognize this as a pivoted layout, where similar typed values are stored in multiple columns. We need 1 row for each rate with hours and cost kept together. A standard Unpivot separates everything into an attribute and value column, so you'd still need to split hours from costs and pivot those values back. Today we'll explore a different approach. Hi, I'm Melissa, and it's good to have you here. If you want to work along, you'll find a link to the resources for this video down below in the description. Keep in mind that there are multiple ways to solve this, but in this video I'll share one. So looking at our data, all of these overtime columns, 6 in total, have a distinct naming convention. Every overtime starts with the prefix OT. Every pair shows hours before cost, and both contain the same rate after the @ symbol. This consistency is what we will leverage to build a dynamic solution. So when another overtime is added, or instead of 3, only 2 rates appear in the data, this solution will continue to work, provided of course that for every rate, 2 columns are provided. Hours followed by cost. Keep in mind that a dynamic solution doesn't mean without rules. It means taking advantage of a pattern within your data. I've referenced the query, so we can build a solution based on its output. Let's head to the advanced editor. The first task is to identify all of these overtime columns, because we don't want to hardcode any of those column names. I will create a manual step above the source to keep my query organized, and ask the table for all of its column names. This returns a list with all of the column names. From that list, we need to select only those names that start with OT. Provided the underscore because we're iterating a list with column names, and the substring. Let's review the result so we can confirm that it returns what we expect. It's always better to fail fast and resolve issues immediately. That looks good. We've captured all 6 overtime columns. This means we have a dynamic list of column names. Next, we need to split this list into sets of 2 column names that belong together, so that have that same rate associated with it. I'll go back to the advanced editor. Let's call that column sets. Call the List.Split function and pass it this list with column names. And the page size is 2. Let's review this as well. So the shape changed from a list with 6 text values into a list with 3 list items. If I click on the white space, I can see a secondary preview appear down below. This list contains 2 column names that share the same rate. And that's also the case for all of the other nested lists. We can use this as instructions to tell Power Query what needs to be kept together. So all of our prep is done. Time to build an actual solution. I'll select the Source tab And to develop that solution, I'll be using a custom column. So via that mini table icon, I'll use Add Custom Column. I'll give that column a name, enter a value there and press OK. Because I want to work in the advanced editor. So I'm going to open that up again. So here we go. I'll use List.Transform to iterate the column sets. This list contains lists with column names, so I'm going to call this C as a variable, and C is a list with column pairs that we need to iterate as well. Again, I will use List.Transform. We'll take that list with column name pairs, and for each value there, we'll request the field from the table. Quickly see if I have all of those closing parentheses, and I do, so let's review this value. And let's rename that step as well. Let's do that first. I'll click off to the side on the white space and I see a list with lists. All right, so let's drill down into one value to see what they contain. For each row, rows contains this list with lists, and each of these in a list now contains the field values for the field names that we had previously. These field values don't tell us which rate they belong to, but we can extract that from the column name in each set. Both names contain the same rate, so we only need to inspect one. Let's open that up and create a list with one value that we can append to the list with the two values we already have. So with a set of curly brackets, initialize a list and use the ampersand to combine this list to the output of List.Transform. Now let's create an expression here. To extract the rate, we can take whatever is after the @ symbol. Pass it the first value from the column set, so list first. Pass that C, comma, and the delimiter will be the @ symbol. This only extracts the rate, and we can prefix that with OT and that @ sign again. Let's hit that tick and see the result. Let's drill down in one of those values. Our list now contains 3 values: a rate type label, hours, and cost, always in that order. Now, lists are very useful for collecting values, but records enable us to give these values names. Since we know every set produces 3 values, and we know the order they appear in, it means that we can safely hardcode new column names. Since all of the values are in a list, we'll use the function Record.FromList to generate that record for us. Enter a comma. And now we can provide the field names for this record as a list. So the first is rate type, followed by hours and cost. Let's hit that tick. Let's see. We need a closing parentheses there, so let's add that. Hit that tick. Take another look. So now our list no longer contains lists, but now it contains records. Before we unpack these lists and records, let's get rid of those overtime columns as we no longer need them. Let's head back to the advanced editor. All right. Create a new step. Let's return that after the in-clause so we can inspect the outcome. Hit done. Let's expand this to new rows and now extract all of those fields. So these new fields don't have a type associated with them, and we could add a change type step here. But as we already know the structure and the fields that we're creating, we can also ascribe a new column type instead. So let's go back. Add a comma there, and you see a new column type. So our records were contained within a list. So let's define that type. So type, which is a list that contains a record. I'm quickly going to copy the names here and paste those there. So rate type, that's text. Hours is a number. And cost is a number as well. Let's hit that tick and take another look. Perfect. So all of these columns now have types associated with them. Keep in mind though that this technique of specifying a type is not parsing or converting values. Rate type was a text label, a label we constructed, and a value compatible to a type text. Hours and cost were numeric and compatible to a type number. But if your numbers came in as text and weren't converted, this technique will raise a value type mismatch error at runtime. Just calling it out so you know what to expect. If you run into type issues, check out the GitHub resource for this video. It includes a section on how to adapt it for your work that covers common issues and how to resolve them. You might think, well, that was a neat trick, but what if my raw data has those columns ordered differently, like listing all of the hour columns before all of the cost columns, as shown here? Can you still use this approach? Now, you might expect that you'd have to rebuild the entire solution from scratch, but that's not the case. Only a small change is needed to process the data when it's structured like this. So I will duplicate the solution that we built just a minute ago, and then we'll explore that tiny update. I'll select the source tab and change it to my other data. Hit that tick. Perfect. So now we have hour columns before cost columns. All right. So the problem is here. Let's take a look. This no longer contains those column pairs. I'll open the advanced editor once more. Right now, column sets assumes that pairs are in adjacent columns, which is no longer the case. Instead, we need to split our column list into two equal-sized groups. Let's start by doing that. Let's review the outcome of this step. We now have two lists, one with hours and one with costs. The columns that need to be paired share the same position in these lists. Therefore, we can use the function List.Zip that expects a list of lists, and that's precisely what List.Split provides. So all we have to do is wrap that function around it. So here we go. List.Zip. Hit that tick. And now we have a list with three nested lists. Hours followed by costs. Now we've recreated the exact same column name pairing as before. Nothing else needs to change. Let's review the outcome. Perfect. Leave your favorite approach to unpivot multiple column pairs down below in the comments. I read them. And if you found this useful or learned something new, a like is a great way to let me know. Thank you so much for watching. Till next time.